In this week's Parsha, the Torah tells us the laws of lost objects. The Torah introduces this section by saying, "You shall not see your brother's ox or sheep straying and ignore them. You shall return them to your brother." At first glance, the wording used by the Torah is very strange. It sounds like the Torah is telling us, "Lo sireh, don't see them, bi salamto, and ignore them," which would literally mean, you shall not see them, but rather, you shall ignore them. When the intent is seemingly the exact opposite, that you shall not see these lost objects and just go on with life and ignore them, but rather you need to return them to their owners. The Talmud comments on the strange wording and explains that although the verse clearly means that one must not ignore lost objects that have been found, nevertheless the verse is alluding to very specific situations when one is in fact permitted to ignore them. For example, if he is a Kohen and the animals have wandered into a cemetery where Kohenim may not enter, or if he is an honored sage and it is beneath his dignity to lead animals or carry packages in public places, he may ignore the lost objects and he is not obligated to return them to his brother. As parents, there are certain behaviors of our kids that cannot go unnoticed and without an immediate response. But just like with lost objects, there are also many times when we would do much better by resisting the urge to respond and instead turn a blind eye and ignore what we see. We need to pick our battles. Some things are better left unnoticed, or at least without a comment. When we are constantly picking out our kids for petty misbehaviors or for conduct that is completely age appropriate, we do them a big disservice, as they don't learn how to distinguish between that which is really bad and that which is just a trivial problem. And even when we do need to reprimand them, we often need to temporarily ignore the behavior and wait for an opportune time and a setting when our words will be better received. We have a great precedent for this with the conduct of Hashem himself after the primordial sin of man. After Adam and Chava had eaten from the tree of knowledge and suddenly became aware of their nakedness, Hashem revealed himself to them to rebuke them. Interestingly though, the verse is careful to tell us that it was only after Adam and Chava had sewn together fig leaves and made girdles for themselves that Hashem came to chastise them. The commentaries explain that Hashem didn't want to come to them when the stain of their sin would still be so evident on them, both literally and figuratively, as they would have felt too ashamed at the moment to absorb the words of Hashem. He delayed and waited for a more opportune time to broach the subject. Parenting is no different to how we approach most issues in life. Some need to be dealt with immediately, others should be delayed, and yet others are better to be left alone and completely ignored. Good Shabbos.